What is up, guys? Beancrew49 here. We are back on the Desolation map. And last Monday we left off at the gas station, and I didn't quite finish it, so I want to pick up where we left off. I want to thank you guys for all your support and all your understanding and all your comments on last Monday's Creative Question of the Week video. It was a controversial subject, and a lot of people had a lot of things to say about it, but for those of you who understood where I was coming from, I was just trying to tell my story. And you could take my story however you want, okay? So the people who understood that and didn't see it as me telling you what to do, then I appreciate you listening and understanding, because that's what I said 7 times in the video, okay? So today I want to talk about another very controversial subject. Before I get into that though, I want to, just tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to finish this smoke cloud. I'm going to do a lot of detailing today. Detailing is the name of today's game. We're going to work on this gas station. And again, I'm not going to finish the gas station. I got a little bit more detailing to do. I want to add more cars and stuff. And I'm going to work on a few cars today. But I'm just trying to get this smoke cloud to look real nice and real detailed. So you're going to see a lot of me detailing this thing. I'm going to blend a lot of colors like an artist would. Blending colors together to create a new feeling, so to speak. And I'll be using a few different blocks and stuff like that. So sit back, relax, and unwind and listen to the creative question of the week. I want to get right into it because I have a lot to say about this creative question of the week. All right. First of all, if you have a question, please leave it in the comment section or on my Twitter. Either way is fine. And make sure it's creative. I love these creative questions. Ask something that, no one's been asked before. That would be really spectacular. That increases your odds of getting chosen as the question of the week. Alright, today's question comes from Luke is awesome too, and he says, Bean, if you could bring back any rapper, if you could bring back any dead rapper, who would it be? Oh, alright, thank you, Luke is awesome too. That is a phenomenal question. I can't believe you asked this question. Were you in the party when we were talking about this? It seems like you might have been, because we were talking about this just the other day. I was talking in the party with a lot of my friends who are a lot younger than me, middle school, high school, and some even college people, and they don't know who Tupac Shakur is. Or was, I should say. A lot of people in this generation don't know who Tupac Shakur was, or what he stood for, or what he did for humanity. And I'm going to rectify that situation right now. Now, I got mad in the party, okay? But I'm not mad at you guys, okay? I'm mad at society for having forgotten one of the most important artists of his genre, okay? So he's a rapper. That's what everyone remembers him as a rapper. So it's very easy to dismiss what he did for humanity, for society. Because, rappers are kind of frowned upon. Oh, you preach violence or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's just music. It's not really doing anything. But Tupac was far more than a rapper. He wasn't a label. And that's why he was one of, if not the greatest rappers to ever live, period. And I'll get into it. Let's talk about some history about Tupac. He was born June 16th, 1971. And both of his parents belonged to the Black Panther Party. And if you don't know about the Black Panther Party, they were a group that was striving for black rights. Some people in the group wanted to do it peacefully. Other people in the group wanted to use violence to get their point across. And it set up the life of Tupac, basically. His parents were both activists, political activists, and he was born on the East Coast. And he got into, acting school, and eventually when he was younger, in his early teens, I believe he moved over to the West Coast. He moved to Marin, and he did more acting. And, he was a very creative person. He liked to express himself creatively. And but then he got into rapping. He moved to Oakland, which, if you don't know about Oakland, is a very gang-infested place, okay? Marin, where he moved to originally, is a very white, suburban, rich area. Then he moved to Oakland, which is the exact opposite. And he got into rapping. And he blew up almost overnight. This guy can rap. He was very into poetry, and anyone who can write poetry can rap. That's how it goes. And, he was so good at it. His first album was Tupacalypse Now, and it was very, very gangster. It preached violence, it preached gang life, it was very negative, I would say. And there was nothing really positive about it. Not too positive. I mean, there were some things about it that were positive for the black community, but it was kind of a darker album compared to his later ones. But then he started growing and evolving and making more and more music that had a message of positivity and messages of negativity. This is why Tupac was such an influential person, okay? Because in all of us, guys, there's the light and there's the dark. It's just the way it is. In every single person, there's light and there's dark. And it's a constant force, a constant battle between the two. And one always is more dominant than the other, okay? Now, Tupac, the reason why he was so influential was because he wasn't afraid to put himself out there into his art. He threw everything that was him into his art. And as a result, we got two sides of the coin. We got very dark songs about killing and violence and murder and all sorts of things that you wouldn't want kids to know. So he got a lot of backlash from that. He spent some time in jail on false charges, or what turned out to be false charges. He got into fights with cops, very dark stuff. And so that's why a lot of, suburban people, they kind of shunned him. They didn't want their kids exposed to that sort of thing. But, on the other hand, he made a lot of uplifting songs that you would want everyone to hear, like Dear Mama or Brenda's Got a Baby, bringing attention to the positive aspects of being human, about celebrating life and creativity and making change for the better, like Gandhi almost. So Tupac was a guy who was torn between the light and the dark. And it came through in his art. It's shown through so brilliantly because you could hear his pain or his happiness. It just seeps through the record. If you've never listened to Tupac, even if you're not a fan of hip-hop, you absolutely should listen to a lot of his songs. They'll make you feel so many different ways. And I think that's the goal of an artist. A lot of artists today are wrapped into these packages. You know what I mean? They're put into this package and you're sold this packaged product. It's not a person making this music. It's a formula designed to create a revenue, basically. Tupac wasn't about revenue. He wasn't about selling a bunch of records. He wasn't about anything other than expressing him, the war inside of him. Just like we all have a war inside of us, and that's why he was so well respected, because he wasn't afraid to show that war going on inside of him. A lot of the African American community rallied around him because not only was he preaching about drugs and violence, but he was also preaching about, standing in your own power, being happy, loving who you are, and not caring about what anyone else has to say about it. Right? That is one of the most strongest messages that any person can give another person. Love yourself, be proud of yourself, and share yourself with the world, because people need to see other people not influenced by outside influences. Does that make sense to you guys? So that's what Tupac stood for. He stood for originality, he stood for creativity, and he didn't care what other people had to say about it. He kept on making music. And he made one of, if not the, in my opinion, is the best hip-hop album ever created. In hip-hop circles, it's widely considered one of the best hip-hop albums ever made. Me Against the World, if you haven't heard that album, I highly, highly encourage you guys to go listen to it. It is hip-hop at its ultimate form. It is the best hip-hop album ever made. It takes you on a roller coaster journey through the mind of a guy who's just torn by these two extreme sides, and you feel every single emotion just seep through that record, and it floats into your brain, and it goes down into your heart, and you just feel the man. Whether you agree with him, whether you support him, or whether you hate him, it doesn't matter, because you're going to feel his emotion on that record. And it was a thing of absolute beauty. And I can listen to that album over and over and over. I've probably heard it 200 times. No joke, guys. No joke, over 200 times. Easily. It's the best ever. So, he got a lot of flack, of course, because he had that dark side in him. And that dark side was his ultimate downfall. He got into a lot of bad stuff. He dabbled in Death Row Records. Basically what happened is he went to jail on rape allegations, and basically the way it worked was Suge Knight. I don't know if you guys know who Suge Knight is. Basically said, I will get you out of jail if you come make a bunch of albums for me. So Tupac was, in jail, and, he's widely considered to be innocent of the charges that he was, charged on. The judge just wanted to see this guy gone, basically. And it didn't matter if there wasn't sufficient evidence, they locked him away, and his only ticket out was Suge Knight and Death Row Records. And if you don't know about Death Row Records, these guys they had no light side. It was all dark. So they appealed to Tupac's dark side. The light side of him wanted to be free and creative and be out in the world expressing himself, but the dark side of him was locked up in a cage, and the only ticket out was to join this dark force. And so that's what he did. He had to join Death Row Records. And Death Row Records, if you don't know about them, it was all darkness. They were basically a gang making music. A gang with a record label. And they did all sorts of partying and, gangsters type stuff. Who knows what they were into. Suge Knight's in jail now on murder charges. So it was a bad decision, a horrible decision. And, his music changed. Music reflected the situation he was in because Tupac didn't care. He was making art from his heart. So when he was in this bad situation with Death Row Records, his music reflected that. And he got further criticism, and it was like a snowball effect. Then he got involved with beef with Biggie Smalls. If you guys don't know who Biggie Smalls is, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's not like these guys are ancient history. This is right before you were born. So learn up about it, guys. If you don't know about Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur, you have your head up your butt and you need to get it out of there. Okay? So go listen to Notorious B.I.G. because he was the same type of person. That's why the two pitted against each other, because they both made art from the heart and they were speaking on realness. Just absolute realness. So they got involved in it was more of a verbal spat than anything else. There was no physical altercation, but they started making songs dissing each other, and they were songs that really struck deep. I can't use any of the lyrics I can't quote the lyrics for you because I want to keep this G-rated, but yeah, Tupac hit him hard, then Biggie Smalls hit him back, and then Tupac came back harder. It was good for the fans, but at the same time, just like the light and the dark, just like the light and the dark that followed Tupac around, it had two sides to it. It galvanized the West Coast, but at the same time, it pitted the East versus the West. It was a weird time in hip hop, a weird time in America, where people felt like they had to get behind one of the two sides. If you were from the East Coast, you got behind Notorious B.I.G. If you're from the West Coast, you got behind Tupac. And it was like two coasts warring against each other for no reason other than the fact that these two guys didn't like each other. And it was a very strange time. So the light side of it was it united a bunch of people, but at the same time, it separated them from other people. So it was a light and a dark situation. And eventually, it was the cause of both their deaths. Tupac was riding around with Suge Knight in Las Vegas after, I think it was a Vander Holyfield or Mike Tyson fight, one of the two. And no one knows what happened. People know what happened, but no one's saying. And Suge Knight was driving. They were on Tropicana Boulevard in Las Vegas. I went to the place where he died and saw, there's nothing there. You see where it was, but yeah, they were just at a stoplight, and all of a sudden somebody came up and blasted both of them. And Suge Knight lived, Tupac died, and that was that. That was the end of Tupac. And leading up to that, working at Death Row Records, he prophesized his own death. He kept saying that, I'm going to die young, someone's going to kill me, and the themes just followed him throughout his life in his music. And, I feel like that's the reason of his death, guys. Whatever you focus on, whatever you think, that becomes your reality. And that's one of the things that Tupac taught us. And he was a teacher. People say he was a rapper, he was an actor. I didn't even talk about his acting. One of the most underrated actors ever. Go watch Juice. Juice is one of his first movies. The acting performance that he puts down in Juice is so good. You guys need to go watch Juice. poetic justice. That was a really, powerful movie. Above the Rim, when he was like a gangster character, wasn't that great in Above the Rim. But Gridlocked, oh my goodness, Gridlocked. I mean, all these movies are very adult, so if you're not able to watch rated R movies, then obviously don't watch them. But they all had very powerful messages. He was an underrated actor. He was just getting into his acting stride when he was gunned down, and he would have been, it seemed like he was in the mood to stop rapping and get into acting full time. And it wasn't like an Ice Cube situation where he's going to make all these stupid movies to earn money, He was about to make some serious art. And that's what he was about. He was an artist. And he was an artist that just showed the real side of him. He put his heart into everything he did. He didn't make any formulaic packaged nonsense. He was an innovator. He led the way for a lot of people, and it's sad to see the state of hip hop and acting now without Tupac, because that soul is gone. He was a guy with soul in a land of soulless people, and that's why, whether you like hip-hop or not, you need to know who Tupac was, because he was a teacher, he was wise, and even though he had these two battling sides inside of him, he wasn't afraid to show you the battle. He wasn't afraid to show you the war going on inside him, because he felt like it was beneficial for you guys to see it. Every person has a combination of lightness and darkness within them. All of us do. And he showed us that it was okay to have that. We all have darkness within us, and it's our duty to rid ourselves of as much darkness as we can. And he went about it the wrong way, and he paid the ultimate price. So he was a teacher. He taught us so much, guys. Alright, thank you for letting me talk about Tupac for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes. That felt good. He had influenced me in so many ways. He was an idol of mine, definitely. And you have to realize that there were two sides to him, and there's two sides to all of us. So you can't put him on a pedestal as being this altruistic human being, but that's never what he wanted to be, and that's what made him amazing. Alright, okay, cool. Thank you. Leave creative questions of the week in the comment section, guys. I can answer any kind of question you want. It doesn't have to be about Minecraft. It could be about Tupac Shakur. Alright, so that's the gas station. Not quite done. Look at that smokestack. How does it look? A lot of people have been saying it looks like a tornado. Come on, it doesn't look like... Use your imagination, guys. Have you ever seen smoke like that before? I wanted to use only like 3 fire blocks. I didn't want to go crazy on the fire just because of the lag and the frame rate slowdown. As you can see, a lot of you were worried that the roof would get totally destroyed, but I did it tastefully. I told you guys I would do it tastefully, didn't I? It's tastefully done, so hopefully, those who wanted to see it blown up are happy. Those who didn't want to see it blown up are also happy. No, we're all happy. I'm happy. Well, I'm not happy about this lag situation that we got going on, but when am I ever happy about lag, okay? So I want to thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this. Happy Minecrafting. Peace.